Hello, everyone, and welcome live to the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. I am Peter Short, and alongside me is Andre Grandbush. We're going road course racing tonight at Road America. I love road courses, Andre. They always put on a good show. Here tonight, a little bit smaller of a field than what we have been used to here in the series so far this year, but I'm very much looking forward to what we have in store here tonight.
Yeah, and Road America is definitely a fun one. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got speed sections, got some really low speed sections, got that big sweeping carousel. Very fun road course and pretty long lap times to look forward to. I mean, it's daunting to navigate this track. I can kind of understand why the field is thinned out a little bit, because it takes a lot to even look at a track like this and say, yeah, you know, I'm going to try and tackle this. But the drivers who showed up, they've got confidence as we go on board for qualifying. Some drivers trying to post their times, get up on the board. This is coming out of the sharp left-hander that leads to the carousel turn, if you want to call it that. Long sweeping right-hander, just a little bit of banking that fades away at the end. Got to be careful not to carry too much speed out, as it does tighten up right there. You can see you shoot towards that outer berm pretty quickly. And then this is a fun section right here, Peter. You got this little kink that you can take at really high speeds, but it is a fine line. You go just a few miles an hour too quick, you might find yourself in that concrete barrier. So just a few reasons this track's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that fast section, I think back to many moons ago, back around 2006, 2005, when Catherine Legg in an Indy car, then a Champ car, had a massive, massive collision through that kink. And hopefully we don't see that here tonight, but we have seen that before here on 3 Wide TV. You see just about 5 minutes left. Bill Edwards, the first driver to set a time, 2 minute 18 and a half seconds. Now Philip Scott, a 2:16:02. All eyes, I think, are going to be on Philip Scott, as that number 99 just pulls off the racetrack almost immediately. Halfway through qualifying, he's got a good lap time in, and Adam Newton now 3.7 seconds behind Philip Scott. You see Bill Edwards there having a little bit of wheel spin coming out of turn number 2. Down into a very, very fun and interesting portion of the racetrack. That is kind of turn number 5. Actually, turn number 5 and 6. There we go. There's Bill Edwards. Easy to lose yourself on these cameras here at this particular racetrack, because it's definitely going to be an interesting race here tonight with these trucks. A lot of weight. You know, we're used to seeing people at these road courses with GT3 cars that are a lot lighter, have a lot more downforce. But, Andre, these Stay Tuned Sports trucks, a lot of weight, a lot of horsepower, and a lot to manage.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And with the elevation changes on this track, it just makes it all that much more noticeable that you have that lack of downforce. There's a few hills on this track. The main straightaway coming to the start-finish line is a very steep climb, as well as that hill we saw just after turn 5. When you crest those hills, the car gets a little bit lightweight. That steering wheel's not quite as responsive as you'd want it to be. So they definitely have to keep that in mind as they navigate this track. Are you going downhill? Are you going uphill? And in real life, you can feel that. You know if you're going uphill or downhill. But in the sim, sometimes it's easy to lose track of exactly where you are on the track and exactly what angle your truck is at. So you don't really necessarily feel that elevation change, and you have to be very focused on that. But we do have a lap time finally competitive to Philip Scott. Seemed like he was going to be the standalone driver in the 216 bracket. But with a 216.8, it's going to be Crump in the number 8, who is second on the board right now. He's got about a second and a half over Edwards in the number 5. He's sitting there in third. But any way you cut it, right now, with the 5 drivers who've posted times, Peter, looks like Philip Scott's got this track figured out. I don't know what he knows that these guys don't, but they might want to start figuring it out.
Yeah, Philip Scott, very, very good lap time, and Scott Crump, good lap time by him, just about 3/4 of a second off. Andre, he's been a rocket man so far on the pole in every race that we have had this season. Mighty impressive out of Scott Crump as he works his way through the corner known as Canada Corner. Got just a couple corners left for him to complete this lap time. Number 92, Julian Tesoro, just completing his lap time. He will jump to third spot on the board. A little bit of a new look this week on the number 92. You'll be definitely able to see that truck. Got CRG on the side of that number 92. Great looking paint scheme. Absolutely love that paint scheme. The Tesoros always put a good paint scheme on their trucks. But speaking of Tesoros, Dominic Tesoro currently in the number 69 coming across the stripe. He goes second on the board. Look at that, 0.14 of a second off. Great lap time by the number 69. He'll just pull it off to the side of the racetrack there. Here comes Brandon King coming to the line. 1 minute 37 seconds left. Of course, if you're on a hot lap when the checkered flag falls in qualifying, you will be able to complete that lap. So Brandon King not putting a lap time in there, Andre. He's got one more attempt at it, but cannot go off the racing surface. If he goes off the racing surface into the grass, puts kind of half the truck into the grass, that will disqualify his lap time. So he has to be careful here. He wants to get a qualifying lap time in, but he's only got one shot left.
Yeah, definitely want to start towards the front, especially for the first few corners being as tight as they are and how narrow this track can be. I think track position is going to be a big benefit, at least on the restart. And then as things get separated, it doesn't quite matter where you qualified as much. But on that initial start, you want to be up front. The 17 trying to post the lap time here. Again, he's another driver who will have one go at it. Won't be able to make 2 laps as the timer is running out. Getting a little bit loose through the kink, almost touching that grass, but he's able to stay out of it and keep his lap time valid as far as I'm aware. But yeah, this track can definitely get narrow at certain points, and that's got to be a little nerve-wracking for qualifying, but a little loose again, carrying quite a bit of speed out of the corner. He's able to gather it up. Looks like some smoke through this chicane from a previous truck. Not sure what threw up all that smoke, but I find this set of corners to be pretty tough, Peter. It's, you know, they're high-speed corners, but they're not that high speed. You've really got to walk that fine line, really got to angle them properly, and each corner leads into the next. So if you mess up one of them, you kind of mess up that whole back section of the track leading to the straightaway. And so the 17, how did he do? Well, looks like he did pretty good. 2:15.5. Maher goes to the pole, and the checkered flag is going to fly over qualifying. The drivers are going to come and finish their lap times if they are still out on track. But last second, Peter, Maher is going to step up to the pole.
Yeah, I was looking at the live timing and scoring as he was working through that lap, and I was noticing that he was keeping pace and beating Philip Scott in a couple of sectors, but we also just kind of had him in the background. That was Philip Scott, who was able to actually better his lap time right there at the end of the session, but not enough. Here comes Brandon King. We mentioned he was on a hot lap. He's coming to the start-finish line. What does he do in the number 55? And the number 55 jumps up into the 11th position, the last qualifier of all. So looks like 11 drivers take time. Jeff Price, Matt Cherry, Fred Lester, Josh Smith, and David Buell. Those 5 drivers unable to turn a lap in qualifying. It looks like out of those drivers, only Jeff Price in the number 14 made it out onto the racetrack. So hopefully we'll see Matt Cherry, Fred Lester, Josh Smith, and David Buell in the race. But Andre, it's a kind of a long race here tonight. 35 laps on hand, 140 miles. It should probably be about an hour and 15-minute long race or so. And, you know, you got to keep it on the racetrack as Brandon King struggles with that right there in turn number 5. And still going around in the number 55 and turn number 5. And looks like he'll get it back going. Qualifying, of course, has ended. We just have to wait for the iRacing Session 2 time out here. But a great run for Triston Maher, who won last time out at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, Andre, in what was another fantastic race here in the National Sim Racing Association.
Yeah, that was a pretty awesome race. There was a whole lot going on all night long, and for him to roll away with the win, it was pretty impressive. But this race is going to be a whole different ballgame from anything we've done so far this year. Coming to a road course, you know, we're going to see probably some different faces up front, different style of racing. And I do want to point out there will be a stage tonight, a stage at lap 5, although as far as I'm aware, there was a vote in the league Discord as to whether or not there should be a yellow flag thrown for the stage, and they voted no. So it should stay green for the stage at lap 5, but the points will still be awarded for 1 through 10, and currently looks like only one driver is at risk of missing out on a point, so that'll be a battle for the stage points back there. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. These drivers getting ready to grid up, and I don't know, man. This track is so tough, and these starts, Peter, at this track, you've got that sharp right-hander to start. You go down a hill, another sharp right-hander, long straightaway, high speed. It is tough until they get spread out.
Yeah, your first couple of laps can make or break your entire race here at Road America. It is absolutely imperative that you keep all four wheels on the racing surface throughout the full lap here for all 35 of them that we have in store. Things can go very wrong here in an absolute hurry. So we'll see that here momentarily as we move over into the race session. The field will start to line up. We'll see exactly where the field lines up. Sometimes they line up here on the front stretch. Sometimes they do on the back stretch. Looks like we're on the front stretch, so that's a full pace lap. Let's bring up tonight's starting lineup for the 140-mile race here at Road America. Triston Thuggy Maher on the pole, last week's race winner at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and only the second driver to start on the pole this season, finally dethroning Scott Crump as the pole sitter. Philip Scott will be starting alongside. Doesn't have the best start to the season, looking for a little bit of a bounce back in that number 99 World Ninja League machine. Dominic Tesoro in the number 69. He's looking for a good finish here tonight, as he has also kind of had some up and down finishes so far this season in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. I think that, he's been pretty good on the road courses. I think last season, we went to Knock Hill last season, and he was pretty fast there, so we'll see whether or not Dominic Tesoro can back that up here tonight. Scott Crump finally not starting on the pole, like I mentioned. Will be starting on the outside of row number 4, 1.279 seconds behind Maher's pole sitting time tonight. Julian Tesoro will be starting in 5th. Bill Edwards will be rolling off in the number 5 machine from the 6th position. Vincent Valvano gets rolling back there in the number 64 from 7th. Adam Newton, number 29. Got word this week Kevin Harvick will be running the number 29 once more. Adam Newton will be rolling off from 8th tonight. Paul Bilson and Stephen Lashinsky will round out our top 10 starters here at Road America, Andre.
And rounding out the rest of the field, we've got Brandon King in P11 right alongside Fred Lester. Now again, most of these drivers did not post qual times. They opted to start towards the back, and 13th is going to go to Josh Smith in the 13 car. Jeff Price, 14th in the 14. David Buell is going to be P15 in that number 52 machine, right alongside the number 51 of Matt Cherry in 16th, and I believe that is going to be our full field here at Road America. 16 trucks start. How many make it to the end? Well, we're going to have to watch and find out, but one very long pace lap around this road course, and I feel like pacing is definitely one of the most nerve-wracking moments of a race. Before you get that green flag, you start overthinking a little bit, and these road courses, Peter, they give you a whole lot of time to do some overthinking.
Yeah, especially some of these long straightaways that we have here at Road America. I mean, this middle stretch, as it's called. I'm not going to call it the back stretch. Not going to call it the front stretch. This is the middle stretch here in between turns number 3 and on down into turn number 5, which is right here. It's a very long straightaway. You got a lot of time to think about this braking zone. A lot of opportunities to make a pass in that braking zone as well. One of the best spots on this racetrack to make a pass. Probably only turn number 1 and Canada Corner are better than turn number 5 to make a pass. But nonetheless, Andre, it's going to be a good show here tonight. Want to make mention that Jeff Price and Matt Cherry, the number 14 and the number 51, do not appear like they're out there on the racetrack. So looks like those two drivers, unfortunately, will not be taking the green flag here with the field, as Triston Maher leads the field around into the carousel about halfway through the pace lap. And let's just kind of talk about the point standings entering into tonight. Of course, 3 races down, and it is Scott Crump, our points leader in the number 8 machine, by 20 markers over last week's race winner, Triston Thuggy Maher. Maher comes into tonight second with 136 points. Julian and Dominic Tesoro round out our top 4, with Julian Tesoro sitting on 119 points, Dominic Tesoro 117. Then it's a 9-point gap back to Adam Newton, who has 108 points. Matt Cherry sitting 6th, of course, not starting here tonight. Going to be a little bit of a hit for driver of the number 51. He sits with 104 points in 6th. Fred Lester, Philip Scott tied for 7th. David Buell in 9th. And Jason Freeman, our winner a couple rounds ago at Las Vegas, but not in tonight's field. He was 10th entering into tonight. But a lot of names that we often see not in the field here tonight, one of those being Justin White, league administrator. So not sure where Justin is, but hopefully he is doing well. Maybe he'll join us here in the 3 Wide TV chat. Got a couple people in the chat. Got Johnny Williams saying good luck all. Hello to the booth. Triston Maher, good evening, gentlemen. Tristan, hopefully you have a good run. You have the best starting spot. So we'll, I'm sure, ride on board with the number 17 at some point here tonight. And, of course, the Windsors rooting on Bill Edwards as they always do. Great to see you, the Windsors. Welcome back to 3 Wide TV as the iRacing pace truck about to head on to pit road here, Andre, getting set to go green for 35 laps.
That they are. The pace truck is going to make that right-hand turn this time down the uphill pit lane. And the trucks are going to pull along parallel to it. Just wait for the flag man to wave that green flag and set them loose. 17 on what would be the outside of an oval, but here it's going to be the inside for turn 1, heading it down this very long straightaway, uphill, then downhill into the right-hand bend. And the 17 actually dips to the left side of the track so he can get a better arc into the corner. Bit of a risky move. He almost let Tesoro get underneath him right there, but he was able to stay clear into the lead. And they're going to be single file 1 through 3, but Philip Scott is going to make it 2 wide a little bit further back. Well, he did for a minute before he gave up that position. Number 8 now trying to make the move, and we got a spinner. That is going to be the 00, Bilson. Looks like just a little bit too much beans, as Carlos would say, coming out of the corner.
Yeah, a little bit too much on the gas. Spins around right in front, I believe, of Bill Edwards. Not sure if Edwards got any damage in that. Looks like the Toyota Tundra has a clean nose. That's the good news, but we're also now hearing Fred Lester has had an issue. The number 48 has gone around. Let's see if we can quickly dial up what happened to Fred Lester, but we kind of expected this, Andre, a very busy opening lap. Here he is coming down into turn number 5, and the back end steps out. Ooh, pretty heavy hit with that inside wall, or right side wall there, and hopefully he can get that thing back going.
Yeah, that was quite a heavy hit. Again, the damage model for all the stock cars is a little bit wonky right now, so maybe he'll be able to keep that thing going. It looks like he's at least able to get up to speed. Looks like maybe another issue for the 00. He was just getting back on track, and now maybe some issues for Crump in the number 8. He just dropped a few positions. He was a little off pace, so it seems like we're seeing issues all over the track, Peter.
Yeah, and of course, the one thing you don't want to do here with these trucks is abuse the tires early. Tire wear is extremely important with these trucks because they're so heavy. They slide around on these tires a lot, and if you can minimize that sliding on these road courses, it will really help preserve the life of the tires and keep that grip level up all the way until you really have to come down pit road. So we'll keep our eyes on that. I do expect to see maybe about 12 to 13 laps here tonight on kind of a fuel run, as Paul Bilson really struggling back here. He's well off in the kitty litter in the final corner, going over the grass and the hops, and maybe writing a letter S there in the grass as he goes up the hill. Meanwhile, back up at the front, Andre, you mentioned the start of the Tesoro brothers. Dominic Tesoro up into second, Julian Tesoro into third. Philip Scott bouncing back to the 4th spot right at the beginning. So great start by the Tesoro brothers. Not a great start for our outside pole sitter, Philip Scott, but Triston Thuggy Maher continues to lead the way here at Road America.
Yeah, I tell you what, Dominic and Julian are going to be 2 trucks to watch tonight. They do come from a bit more of a road racing background here on iRacing. I believe last season here in this NSRA Truck Series was really their first foray into the oval side of things, and they were good at that. So, you know, a driver's pretty good when they can step into a new discipline and already be a force to be reckoned with, and they just sort of naturally adapt to it. But then you take the Tesoros kind of to their home turf here at a road course, and they're definitely going to be a threat to win, as the 69 is going to make a move on the outside through the sweeper, and the 17 should be able to get clear here. He's got the preferred line, but will it be a crossover? The 69 applying the pressure, hugging that bottom lane, and 17 getting a little bit loose. I think Tesoro's pressing square to intimidate, coming through the kink. Who's going to take it quicker? Looks like Tesoro closes up just a little bit on entry. 17 pulls away on exit. Now we're coming up on a pretty heavy braking zone right here. So we go on board looking back at Tesoro. See if the 69 tries to outbrake him by a few feet here. Looks like he's just going to follow the line. Julian following not far behind. Working our way through what I'll consider the S's of the track. And the 69 closing in again, Peter. He is right there. This isn't really a passing zone, but it looks like with 2 tires in the grass, he's going to make it one. And clear into the lead. Dominic Tesoro is going to lead lap 2. And now Julian is trying to follow him through, get a little bit of draft down this very long straightaway. 17 slots into second place, but he's going to try to take it back. He looks low, he looks high, tries to pull up alongside. He is not giving this lead up easy.
Yeah, I think that move there going into the penultimate corner, Andre, probably took Triston Maher by surprise just a little bit. It's, like you said, not a passing opportunity, or not a real passing spot there. Maher gets the power down maybe a little bit too much, gets a little bit of the wheel spin off the back, as did Julian Tesoro, but that opened up the door there momentarily for the number 92. Watch for the dive bomb here into turn number 5. Julian Tesoro showing a nose here. They're going to be side by side as they go towards the apex, and looks like Julian Tesoro going to squeak on by, move the Tesoro brothers up into the top 2. It's been a flying start from the 69 and the 92.
That it has. I got to tell you, oh no! Dominic loose up the hill. He's going to give up the lead, drop countless positions. He may fall as far back as 8th position here. There goes a handful more trucks. You see Newton in the 29. That is position 8. So it looks like he may settle into 7th. He's got a lot of work to do. Take a look at a replay here, see exactly what happened to our former leader in the 69. It was coming up over the hill. I don't know if the truck just got a little bit light and he crested that hill and coming. Yeah, I mean, that spin started all the way back at the hill and it didn't stop till he got to the grass. So I think that was just a case of a little bit too much speed over the hill. The car starting to get a little bit sideways, and once these trucks get sideways, Peter, especially at a road course, it's like you're on ice. There's just so little opportunity to recover. And honestly, had there been a pavement runoff right there, I think Dominic was on track to actually save it. But once those tires hit the grass, that was all she wrote.
Yeah, just as I was saying, it was a flying start by the Tesoro brothers. Dominic Tesoro just had to kind of put it off track, unfortunately. So he's dropped all the way down. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen down to 7th, and with no stage cautions here tonight, Andre, only local cautions, it is going to be difficult for the number 69 to catch back up, but he does have plenty of time to do it. He is going to have to be on a charge for the remaining 32 laps that we have on the scorecard. Meanwhile, brother Julian Tesoro up front with about a 0.6 of a second lead over Triston Thuggy Maher. Philip Scott starting to close in just a little bit in 3rd. And look at Vincent Valvano. Yeah, you can say Scott Crump has had problems. Yes, you can say Dominic Tesoro's had problems. But Vincent Valvano, the driver here who started this race in 7th, has crept his way up into 4th, and he's keeping tabs with the front few. So keep our eyes on the number 64. If he's able to save his tires as this run goes on, that could pay big dividends for the Fanatec driver here as he works his way into turn number 5. Let's see if we can go on board here. Exactly where we saw Dominic Tesoro 1 lap ago have the problems. You see that hill that you crest over, and it's kind of a blind apex. You kind of see it late, Andre, and I'll tell you what, the best way through that corner, that left-hander, is to just kind of slow it down a little bit, roll the inside, grab the curb a little bit, and then kind of put the power down nice and softly. But I've always found that it's better to underdrive that left-hander and maybe take it a little bit more gingerly than overdrive it. And unfortunately for Dominic Tesoro, we saw exactly what happened when you overdrive it.
Yeah, you definitely do not want to overdrive a road course. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You will always give up more time overdriving if you wreck than you will ever give up underdriving by just a little bit. Looks like we had a replay involving the number 13 machine. He started towards the tail end of the field. This is coming into the right-hander, and just a little tail happy. That could have been a brake bias issue. Maybe a little bit too heavy on the brakes. Rear end swung out on that Toyota, and luckily everybody behind him was able to work their way through, and he's back on track, but did cost him a position, so kind of a shame there. But It looks like Dominic Tesoro has already gained 2 positions since his incident. However, he's not really gained much time to the leader. He's still about 8 seconds back, which is where he was a lap ago. Now, Tesoro, I think we can see him get back up inside the top 5. I wouldn't count him out there making up time after that mistake. But what he's done, Peter, is he's given up stage points, because at the completion of this lap, that will be stage 1, though there won't be a caution for it. And he was looking to win the stage, get himself some bonus points. Now he's looking at a lot less points back there in 6th, presuming he cannot get around 5th in the next lap. Julian, though, he's been putting up a fight for the lead here. He's not quite been able to drive away with it, and little mistakes like that are what's keeping the 17 in the game. I think when the 92 hits his marks, he's definitely faster, but he's just making these little bobbles. You see that rear end get a little tail happy, gets on the throttle a little bit too hard, and that's when the 17 closes back in and puts him right in striking distance. He's going to go way wide into the downhill left-hander. It's going to give him a huge run out. He is on the tailgate of our leader. He's going to go to the high side through the blind apex. That is a bold move, Peter. You're not wrong when you say that is a blind corner, and he took that perfectly. He's just looking all over the track for a way to get around Julian, but Julian's making that truck as wide as he can possibly make it into this left-hander here. Very narrow corner. Want to clip the curb as the 17 does, but it's Julian with a better run out underneath the Speedville Bridge. And again, right there, Peter, see that little bit of a slip-up from our leader, put the 17 back in the game.
Yeah, but that's going to open up this late apex for the number 92. He's going to get a good drive up out of the carousel. You see a couple of truck lengths now between the number 17 and the number 92 up front. But ooh, big wiggle out of Tesoro there again. He's really wheeling it, Andre. You have to think maybe the tire's already starting to fall off. These Goodyear tires just don't last very long. We expect to maybe be about halfway into this particular run, and you would think every single time these drivers come down pit road, they're going to be getting 4 fresh Goodyear tires. As the number 92 shoots his way through the penultimate corner, here he is into the final corner. This is where we saw him get around the number 17. That was a lot of oversteer, Andre. A big slide out of Julian Tesoro, but he's going to come up to the start-finish line this time and will take the points for winning the stage.
He is going to get the stage win, but watch this 17 coming into the right-hander. He's going to get a big run with the draft here. He looks low, he looks high again. We've seen him do this so many times, just zigzagging, looking for an opening. He does get to the quarter panel, but he's got to give it back as he clips the grass a little bit sideways out of turn 1, heading down the hill into turn 2. Hard onto the brakes. He's out-braking our leader just by a few feet, and that's all it takes. Staying on that tailgate all the way down this long straightaway again, trying to utilize that draft. These trucks punch a huge hole in the air, and he is going to use every bit of that advantage. He looks down low, not quite close enough to get to the quarter panel yet, but I think he might get there. Wiggle out of the leader, side by side into the hairpin left. And it looks like the 17 is going to try to make it happen on the bottom. They're going up the hill side by side. That is a sketchy situation, but no. Maher is actually going to concede that position, give it right back to the leader. And while these guys are battling, Peter, look at who has closed the gap and made himself a part of this battle. The 99, Philip Scott, has joined this group, and he is not far behind.
Yeah, and last time by, I was keeping my eyes also on Dominic Tesoro, who last time by ran the fastest lap of anyone on the racetrack. Julian Tesoro, Triston Maher ran the 2:18.7 second bracket. Well, Dominic Tesoro lapped 0.8 of a second faster that last time by, so he shaved off about 2 seconds or so since we last checked in on him on the leader. So Dominic Tesoro might be working his way towards the front again after making that big mistake. Oh, Julian Tesoro having some connection issues. I'll tell you what, Andre, there's nothing worse than falling out of a race, having connection issues when you're the race leader. And Julian Tesoro running a little bit wide, and that's going to get the lead back to Triston Maher. Andre, you have to think maybe, just maybe, that little connection hiccup out of the number 92 maybe distracted him. You kind of mentioned these straightaways, they're really long. You got a little bit of time to think, and maybe the 92 just overthought what was happening there and gives up the race lead to Maher.
Well, it could have been that, or it just could have been those tires are screaming at him. He's been sliding around these corners, I think, more than anybody else, and it's a compounding issue. The more you slide, the hotter your tires get. The more you slide, it's a circular issue, and he's been sliding a lot, so those tires probably starting to give way now that we're 7 laps in. And I do want to point out, normally these trucks would have 50% fuel capacity in this league, but being at a road course here, a little bit longer lap times. 75% fuel capacity, so they can go a little bit longer than usual. As oh no, Wilson continuing to not have a very fun time out here at Road America. He's going to hit driver's side first into the concrete barrier, and I think that may have been enough fun for one night.
Yeah, Bilson takes the long tow back to pit road, and tough break for the driver of the 00, who I think has gotten out of the vehicle already. We'll see whether or not Paul works his way back out onto the racing surface at some point. So far, we haven't had any retirements, with the exception of Matt Cherry, who did not start the race here tonight. Don't think Matt is the biggest fan of road courses, but nonetheless, Wilson could be our first starter to call it a night. We'll see whether or not that is true as time goes on. But meanwhile, Maher enjoying about a half-second lead. It had got up to about 1.3 seconds, Andre. But Julian Tesoro has been marching him back down after making that mistake a lap or two ago. So let's keep our eye on this battle for the lead as it continues to rage on. Dominic Tesoro has continued to be on the charge. Last time by, the number 69 was again the fastest truck. He has now just got underneath the 6-second mark from Maher back to the number 69. So that could be an interesting battle as our leaders, Andre, they're letting it all hang out here on lap number 7. We still have 28 laps to go once they go across the start-finish line this time.
And look at the send out of Julian. Look how deep he drives it into the corner. Getting sideways. I mean, he is Takumi Fujiwara out here, just drifting the corners. I don't know how he's driving this thing, Peter. I have no clue how he has managed to get around this track with how sideways he's been, but he's fast. They say loose is fast. That must be true because that 92 is pretty quick out here. And I don't think those tires have had full grip in any corner he's taken since the drop of the green, using every inch of the curb, trying to drift up, make sure he uses every bit of the track he can use to carry as much momentum as he can. 17 trying to extend that lead, but again, I think when the 92 hits his marks, he can be faster than the 17. It's just about minimizing the mistakes, and so far, all that sliding is not helping a lot. Now, as we get closer to the pit sequence, undercutting can definitely have a big effect here at a road course. You can gain a lot of time on fresh tires. So I got to wonder what these drivers are thinking when it comes to strategy. But the 17 misses the corner, and so does Tesoro. Both of them clip in the sand just a little bit. These guys are just driving the wheels off these things. We're on lap 8 out of 35. There's a whole lot of racing left, guys.
Yeah, and that little mistake out of Maher, combined with a little bit of a mistake out of Julian Tesoro, has continued to allow Dominic Tesoro to continue his march up towards the front of the field again. As I say that, I think the number 69 might have had a little bit of a moment because he was actually under 6 seconds. Let's see if we can back this up maybe just a little bit. Bear with me, folks, as my Stream Deck is starting to give me some problems. I don't know why. Usually I use my Stream Deck to help me with my broadcasting, but unfortunately tonight and I tried to hook it up, it decided to say no, and the software froze. I did a reboot, the software froze again, so having to do things a little bit more manual than usual, but seeing if anything happened here with the number 69. Not seeing anything just yet. Maybe it was just a little bit slower than he had hoped in one of those corners, but kind of all clean here so far, and that's about where we left him, so... See, there you go. I'm doing things manually, and you'll make mistakes like that. But nonetheless, back up at the front of the field, the number 17, Maher, now up to about a 1.26 second lead, as Dominic Tesoro now really struggling. He's lost another second since we last left him. So maybe Dominic Tesoro's tires have just absolutely bit the dust, and they've reached a cliff, because the last time by, Dominic Tesoro was about 1 full second slower than Triston Maher, who's lapping in the 2:18 bracket. Fastest truck on the racetrack is the number 17.
Yeah, I think it's actually a amalgamation of a couple issues. I think number one, you're right. He pushed those tires really hard after he spun out, which damaged the tires in and of itself. He was the fastest truck on the track, and yes, he was closing in, but that does come at a cost. You're going to heat those tires up. You're going to wear them out a little bit quicker when you're driving that fast compared to leaders, and I think that price or that bill has finally come due. And also, ever since the 17 took the lead, it's not been much of a battle. There's not much side-by-side. These guys aren't slowing each other down like they were originally. You got to remember, when Dominic was catching up as quickly as he was, these guys were still battling, so that was helping him quite a bit. Now he doesn't have that advantage. 17's just out in clean air. Julian is in second place, and he's not far back, but he's not quite close enough to really get in the 17's head and make him check up at all. So he's able to run optimal lap times, and that is just not aiding Tesoro back there in fifth, who's now 7.7 seconds back. I think if he's going to gain any time, he's got to somehow pull something off, maybe through pit strategy. I don't know if maybe trying to get the undercut or perhaps just having a really good pit road entry and pit road exit, but it seems like catching them on speed has not been the way to go so far, as we got a bit of a wiggle. Oh my goodness! I was going to say we got a bit of a wiggle out of our leader, but then here comes Julian full send with a huge wiggle.
Yeah, that number 92 continuing to show us how the drifting is done around this racetrack. Want to jump to a quick replay, though. We highlighted an issue earlier with the number 13 of Josh Smith, currently running 12th on the leaderboard. Here he is coming into turn number 5, and does a good job of keeping it pointed in the right direction, and he's back down and away. So number 13, Josh Smith back there, kind of still plugging away. Not a whole lot of battles out there on the racetrack, but this one is starting to hot up, as Dominic Tesoro actually has got around Vincent Valvano, now goes to work on Scott Crump. This is the battle right now for the 4th position, as you see the back end getting a little bit lively on the Chevy Silverado of Tesoro. It's a pretty good run right there out of turn number 3. Now turn number 4, well, it's not much of a turn. It's kind of this long kink that they just went through, and now they go into the braking zone for turn number 5 right here at the bottom of the hill. And Andre, the whole world just all of a sudden falls out from underneath you right there if you're one of these race car drivers. It is a tough hill because you got gravity and momentum going against you. The brakes don't work as well when that happens, and you're really trying to get everything loaded up, and all of a sudden the racetrack flattens out for that left-hander right there at the bottom of the hill, and you basically have to reset the entire truck if you want to have all the grip that's given to you out of the Goodyear tires, kind of let that suspension settle. It's a tricky corner, and there's a couple of tricky corners at this racetrack, this being one of them right here in the carousel.
Yeah, that hill definitely plays havoc on your suspension, and I would love to see how a Gen 4 car that's like 6 inches off the ground would handle that kind of elevation change. It would be a lot of fun to watch. Would kind of take me back to Riverside and a few other tracks that they used to race at. But a little bit of a wiggle here out of number 14, and then, well, not so much a wiggle as a spin. That corner continuing to be the heartburn turn for these guys. Just really difficult to get the truck load up, like you said. You're dealing with so many different factors, and if your brake bias is a little bit off, or your inputs are just a little bit off, well,
Andre,
you're not going to be having a lot of fun. But the 92 is in the lead, and Philip Scott is in second. I don't know what happened to the number 17, but he has dropped 2 positions, and Tesoro is going to lead a lap once again. We'll take a look at a 3-wide TV replay. So the 17 coming down the front straightaway for lap 10 into the right-hander. Doesn't quite get to the curb, gets into the grass, and it just played havoc. He couldn't quite get out. Once he got 2 tires in there, it wanted to pull him off the track, and unfortunately it was just enough to open the door for both those competitors to sneak their way through. He had no choice but to concede that. But that's the little mistakes that you gotta avoid at these road courses. They are extremely costly, and I'll tell you what, this is going to be difficult for Maher to make this up before they come down pit road. But speaking of pit road, it's a busy place right now, Peter.
Yeah, we got the number 69, Dominic Tesoro. You talked about the undercut, Andre, and I think that's exactly what the 69 is doing. So it looks like this is going to be maybe a 3-stop strategy. That's about what I expected as he's down and away. And we'll head off towards turn number 1. But I expected a 3-stop strategy. Somewhere around lap number 10 to 12 is probably the ballpark. And I think that's the 69 just kind of opening up this particular pit cycle. But how about this? A 3-truck battle for the race lead. This is the best battle on the racetrack, period, right now. And it is for the race lead. There's about a 1.5 seconds separating our top 3. The next closest battle is between Adam Newton and Bill Edwards. Edwards solidly holding on to the 6th position right now in the number 5. Behind them, Brandon King is about 6 seconds adrift of Steven Lashinsky in the 8th position. But Bill Edwards also appears to maybe be closing in on Vincent Valvano. So we'll keep our eyes on that battle between Valvano and Edwards. That would be for what is currently a top 5 position, with the advent of Dominic Tesoro coming down the pit road that last time by. So 25, we'll make that 24 laps to go this time by, Andre, but still a long 24 laps. Not an easy 24 laps, that's for certain. As the number 92, is he going to come down pit road this time? Yes, he will. This is interesting, Andre, because he's made it, 10 laps or so, 10 full laps coming down pit road. You're not going to make it, or maybe 11 full laps. If you can make it 12 laps on fuel, you can make it on 2 stops. If you have to pit 3 times, that's going to be a lot of time wasted on pit road. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Will these drivers be able to make it to 12 laps? That's the magic number here, as it sure does look like the 99 and the 17 will be able to make it 12 laps, because that's what they're doing right here as they flash on by the pit road and stay on the racetrack. Philip Scott inherits the race lead.
Tell you what, that 17 was looking a bit like a caterpillar coming down that hill. He was left, right, left, right, left, right. But I tell you what, even if they can't make it 12 laps on a regular tank of fuel and they're going all out, I think there's a lot of opportunity to save at this track. That's one good thing about road courses. Plenty of opportunity to roll out of the gas a little bit sooner, get into it a little bit later, and just spend more time coasting, play with the gears, maybe don't downshift quite as much. And if you do all of these things, you can save a ton of fuel. So, if they're 1 lap short when it comes down to it, which I think is about as big of a gap on fuel that we might see tonight. Whoa! As we ride on board with the number 17, he has a big slide. You saw the wheel go hard left, correcting that slide. Great save by Triston Maher. Didn't even lose that much time to our leader. But as I was saying, plenty of opportunity to save, and I think these guys know that.
Yeah, there is a lot of opportunity to save fuel at this racetrack as this race goes on. So, like you said, maybe you missed it the first time. Maybe you can make it the second or third time. You also have to remember, Andre, we did that full pace lap around this place, and you have to think maybe you use about half of a lap of fuel, maybe a quarter of a lap of fuel, but that might come into the equation as well going forward as Ninja Phil goes out of the final corner, and here comes Triston Thuggy Maher coming down pit road. It's an interesting pit road. You can see it's uphill right here till you get to that yellow cone. And that signals the start of pit road. You can see right now Triston Maher going 45, 46 there. Your pit road speed is 45, so he's going to kind of have to back that down just a little bit so he doesn't get nabbed by the iRacing.com pit road police as he comes to his pit stall here momentarily. We'll make that hard right turn into his stall. Make sure he stops on the money, and sure enough, looks like he did. So good pit stop there by Triston Thuggy Maher, and that pit crew will go to work. Meanwhile, Philip Scott, look at that, 160 plus miles an hour heading down the middle stretch down into turn number 5. And Andre, there's that caterpillar-like effect that you mentioned, as a little bit of back end getting happy. But for right now, Philip Scott continues to plug away as your race leader. 23 laps to go, and we are about 6 laps from seeing the cross flags here at this beautiful track in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I think while Philip Scott is giving up time right now on these older tires, 2 things to consider. Number 1, I don't think he's going to have to worry about making it in 2 stops. I think it is pretty much confirmed he should be able to do that. He won't have to save later on, and also he will have the freshest tires once he does get back out on track, so not necessarily a bad call. And road courses, I think, kind of equalize a lot of the strategies and make them all a little bit more viable than you might see at an oval. But look at this. Dominic Tesoro with the undercut has caught up to the 92 and the 17, and it is a Tesoro sandwich. This is almost identical to what we saw on lap 2 when the 17 lost the lead to Dominic. It was Dominic out front, Julian in third. Now the roles are reversed. Julian in the lead, Dominic third, and the 17 square in the middle like he was on lap 2, trying to figure out how do I get around these guys. I got to tell you, Peter, I'm glad that the Tesoro brothers have found each other on track again, because I'm a sucker for uniform paint schemes, and I just love the fact that they match out there.
Yeah, they're a little bit tricky sometimes for us in the commentary booth, but one thing to note, Andre, is that Triston Maher came out right behind Julian Tesoro. He's got 1 lap fresher tires. That might be important as this run continues to go on, but Philip Scott, our race leader, is on pit road right now. Let's see if we can jump on board. There's the number 99 coming to his pit stall, but we'll see exactly how everything sorts out with this group. On board right now with Triston Thuggy Maher. They have Steven Lashinsky in the Monster Jam Chevy Silverado to kind of have to deal with. And the number 92. Oh, man, there was almost contact there. I could have sworn, Andre, that that number 92 was going to be going around for a 360 there, but they did not catch Lashinsky at a good spot, and that has given the number 17 an opportunity here. And look at Philip Scott just coming off pit road in front of this group. They're going to be almost 3 wide as they go off into turn number 1, but look at this. Philip Scott, what a fantastic job by Philip, does the overcut.
How does that happen? He stayed out 3 laps longer than anybody else, and he cycles out in the lead with the freshest tires, and the 17 goes off the track. Triston Maher way out into the grass. He's going to have a whale of a time trying to get that thing back out on the circuit. Watch for traffic. The number 8 sneaks through, and the 17 recovers back in 5th. He has lost 6 seconds through that endeavor. But as I was saying, I mean, could you have a more perfect pit sequence, Peter? You take the overcut, you've got the freshest tires, and you cycle out in the lead.
And you have the most fuel as well on board, and that could be important as this race goes on. So Philip Scott, man, fantastic pit stop. Now just has to kind of get his head down, minimize the mistakes, hit your marks, lap after lap. It's easier said than done, folks. But definitely, if I'm Philip Scott, a little bit of the pressure might be off right now. You can't get complacent if that pressure is off, but you can already see starting to use those fresh tires to his advantage, and already up to about a full second or so on Julian Tesoro, who has about 0.8 of a second on Dominic Tesoro. But, we'll keep our eyes on those gaps. Dominic Tesoro, mighty impressive with that undercut. It might work out in his favor, that undercut that he did in the number 69. We'll just see how that evolves, as we will probably see the final round of pit stops here in about 10 to 11 or so laps here at Road America. So we'll keep our eyes on that lap counter as it continues to tick away. But Philip Scott working his way up through the S's and into the penultimate corner here at the racetrack. Good job for him. Let's go up and down the scoring pylon just a little bit. We saw Scott Crump in the number 8 Stay Tuned Sports Toyota Tundra. Kind of quietly here, Andre. He pitted on lap number 12, so he pitted on the same lap as Triston Thuggy Maher. He's kind of just staying close. I'm not going to say he's in the mix for the race lead at this point, but he's staying close enough where if anything happens with the top 3, he's right there, and that's what you saw when he got around Triston. Oh, no! Oh, we talk about him,
Peter,
and
what did you do?
we fire the laser beams at the number 8 machine, goes around.
That is all your fault, Peter. That is 100% on you.
I'm not even gonna I'm not gonna argue with you. That is a commentator's curse to a T.
Oh man, that was. I mean, we were on board with him. You can't get any more of a commentate. I mean, what is that? That doesn't even look like lockup. I mean, it's like a ghost card just came out of nowhere and Randy Orton'd him.
I don't know. Maybe someone in the woods here has a sniper rifle or something, blew out the tires because it didn't look right. But the Stay Tuned Sports number 8 machine, well, I take back what I said about him. He's now 13.37 seconds. A good old elite amount of time behind Philip Scott up at the front of the field, as Philip now has about a second and a half between himself and Julian Tesoro. But Julian has to watch out because the old brother's right behind him, and it might be a Tesoro on Tesoro battle. And speaking of the Tesoros, we got Christy Tesoro in the chat here tonight saying hello. Stay Tuned Sports as well, and Alicia Casterline saying melee. That's the correct way to say it, Alicia. Stay Tuned Sports saying, am I still commentating on the floor? No, sir. I am in the new house, and I haven't set up my third monitor yet, so still only commentating on 2 monitors. But I'll tell you what, I'm in a nice, comfy chair. It's better than the floor. My back gets a rest for sure. But Jimbo also saying, not a big fan of road courses or dirt, a.k.a. Bristol Dirt. We do have a dirt race this season here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, so I'm looking forward to that one. I always look forward to these oddball events, the road courses, the dirt tracks, something that isn't a mile and a half. We've had a couple of mile and a halves this season, Las Vegas, and of course Atlanta last week here on 3Y TV, but a great season yet to come with a couple of oddball tracks. I absolutely love kind of the oddball tracks that come up every once in a blue moon here in the iRacing.com Motorsports Simulator. You just don't often see trucks racing on Road America, but always love to see it. As Philip Scott, not Philip Scott, Triston Maher back there having a big slide again in the same corner where he had that big conundrum a couple laps back.
Yeah, we're just gonna pass over the fact that Maher is now back at the tail end of the 69. He was 5 seconds off the leader a lap and a half ago. Now he's 3 seconds back, so he has gained a ton of time over just the course of the last lap and a half. In the 13, boy, oh boy, he is probably not having a great time behind the wheel at the number 13. Looks like he comes around that blind apex up onto the curb, and too much curb, Peter. And man, that concrete barrier not forgiving at all. Front end of that Toyota looking a little bit worse for wear. Gets it back out on track, but likely down on horses just a little bit. But the battle for the lead right now definitely getting interesting, with Maher catching back up to the Tesoros. I think we're going to see a bit of a slinky effect here, Peter. I think we're going to see the Tesoros catch up to Philip Scott. Even though Philip Scott's got those fresher tires, those Tesoros have been charging really hard. And if you look at just the way they're navigating some of these corners, they close in here and there, then they make a little bit of a bobble and they lose that time. But I think they're either going to get to the front or they're going to wreck trying. There's no in between. They're not going to be content just riding here. And look how deep Julian sends it into that corner every time. I've noticed that is one corner where Julian really excels. He can brake like 20 feet later than anybody else, if not more. And it gains him a little bit of time. He went from 1.3 seconds off our leader to 1 second off our leader in just that corner alone. And then through this right-hander again, very unstable, sliding all over the place, but fast as could be. I mean, you can't ask for much more speed through that corner, so he's definitely doing something right as we climb the hill and go back down it here on this straightaway. One more lap in the books for Philip Scott, 1.1 seconds advantage, down to about a second in the braking zone. Again, look at how late Julian is getting into these corners. It is, you got to think, the brake temperatures are more sensitive, I've heard, after the last couple iRacing updates, Peter. Do you think these drivers are having to keep that in mind at a road course like this, especially if you're somebody like Julian who's just driving it in so deep? Do you got to worry about overheating your brakes? Yeah,
you do, just a little bit. They definitely get a little bit sticky on you, kind of in a bad way. They kind of grip when you don't want them to grip, and then they kind of languish when you don't want them to languish. So you got to be careful with the brakes here, and really the tires, and kind of how they all interact with each other. These race trucks are, of course, a living, breathing system, if you will, lap after lap here, and you have to be careful. Now, one thing I wanted to note was not last lap, but the lap prior to it. Triston Maher, the number 17 machine, who, of course, sat on the pole here tonight, ran a 2-minute, 15.69 second lap. The only driver to get into the 2-minute 15 bracket. Dominic Tesoro ran a 2-minute 16.23 earlier in the race, but Maher's 2:15.69 absolutely crushed that by half a second in the fastest lap department. So the number 17 was fast 2 laps ago, but last time by, he kind of fell off just a little bit back to a 2:17.6. Was actually slower than our front two of Philip Scott and Julian Tesoro, still closing in here on Dominic. As you can see, that gap continuing to shrink between our third and fourth place trucks. As we're hearing, there's been some issues out there on the racetrack. Let's quickly check in with what has happened to Brandon King here in the number 55 Toyota, running in the 9th position, kind of all by his lonesome right here. Turn number 5, we've seen it be problematic for a couple of drivers, and right there catching out another one. Fred Lester also, we'll jump to him here in the number 48 machine. This is on a 3-wide TV replay as well, hearing that something has happened to his Chevy Silverado, hard on the brakes and too much rear brake as well, and does a good job keeping it on the black stuff, but definitely a long slide for him, Andre.
That was a heck of a save. It very easily could have been a trip through the sand or through the grass, maybe even to a concrete barrier. But like you said, kept it on the black top, and not an easy thing to do. So good job by Fred Lester to make sure that truck is still intact here on 18 to go. But this battle right here for P number 3, this is the battle to watch. 17 desperately looking all over the track as, did we have another issue with the 48?
Yeah, just as you were saying, he did a great job keeping it on the track.
Oh.
That one's on
you.
That one's on you.
That's on me.
I've got one. You've got one here tonight. So we got the 3-wide TV ray gun in full effect here. I think that's happened here at Road America before. I can't remember even if it was the NSRA or another league that I was broadcasting, but like every time I panned to someone was wrecking, and I just believe that was here at Road America. So I don't know. Maybe we've got the 3-wide TV ray guns installed trackside here at Road America, but the number 17 of Triston Maher throwing it all out there out of the carousel, getting nice and sideways. We do want to report that Fred Lester has returned to pit road, where the number 48 stays stationary currently. So tough break for Lester. We'll see whether or not he gets back out there. Josh Smith.
Ooh. 17 with a huge slide there. He came in hot and just lost a little bit of time. Sorry, what were you saying, Peter?
I was going to say Josh Smith is the last running truck on the racetrack right now, down in the 12th position, as Bilson, Price, Lester have all taken it to the garage here tonight so far. So we still have 12 running trucks as this battle for the race league continues to be absolutely awesome. Now, I do want to go back a little bit further in the field. We highlighted this battle. We stated it would be a battle. But Vincent Valvano and Bill Edwards, they pitted on slightly different laps, and I think that gave Bill Edwards a little bit of an advantage, was able to get around Vincent Valvano. So Edwards currently riding in 6th, Valvano in 7th, as they have just about a second between them, but so far been a good battle between the Silent Syndicate Racing number 5 and the Total Nonstop Racing number 64 here of Valvano, as they continue to push each other about a half minute or so behind our front 4. So we'll keep our eyes on that battle as it continues to evolve. But meanwhile, Triston Maher all over the back of the number 69 yet again, as remember, the 69 has slightly older tires. Tesoro pitted on lap number 10. Triston Maher pitted on lap number 12. So this might be those 2-lap fresher tires talking as we close in on 16 to go this time by. Andre, we are officially halfway in tonight's race.
Yeah, the laps are clicking by pretty quickly, and these guys are going to be having to think about getting down pit road again at some point here. We're getting pretty close to another sequence. The 17 is going to look to the low side. 69 tries to throw the block, but it's just not quick enough. He was a little bit too late, had to leave the door open for the 17. They're going to go side by side towards the kink, a very high-speed corner. I think Maher has the preferred lane here, and man, oh man, the 69 barely staying in it. He's not going to give up this position. He's still at the quarter panel, heading into a right-hander. The 17 again with the preferred lane. He's going to have the inside, but he concedes the position. Look at that defense out of Dominic Tesoro. I don't know how you keep that position using the outside lane through two corners, but he somehow does it. Lives to tell the tale here in third, at least for a few more corners. The 17 not relenting, though. He wants that position, and he is not going to give up on it quite so easily. Coming through the final corner of the track up towards the start-finish line. It's going to be about a car length gap to the number 69, but again, heading into some very low-speed corners, and that's where those old tires that Dominic Tesoro has are going to be the biggest disadvantage. He can't quite get into the throttle as quickly as the 17, and he can't quite brake as late as the 17. So it's just going to be overall a little bit slower through the turns. You can see the 17 closing the gap big time right on the tailgate. If there was a hitch on the back of that thing, he'd have a hole punched in his radiator because he is riding him right through the corners. 69 just playing some phenomenal defense here, though. Just, I mean, I can't believe that he's fended him off for this long, Peter.
Yeah, Dominic Tesoro throwing all the stops to stay ahead of Maher. But if you look over the left-hand side of your screen, you might be noticing something. Philip Scott has been able to scoot away from the Tesoro brothers, now up to a 4-second lead. And last time by, Andre, a really stellar lap time out of this driver right here. Let's see if we can bring up the lap time history there at the bottom of your screen. And you can see on lap 15, well, Philip Scott was about 3/10 faster. Then lap number 16, Philip Scott gained Dominic Tesoro gained about a 10th. Then a lap later, just a couple hundredths. But over the last two laps, Philip Scott has put about 2.8 seconds or so on Julian Tesoro. So Philip Scott here, all of a sudden, you look at those lap times, 2:17.49, 2:17.15, 2:18.14, 2:18.26, and 2:17.443. Really, really good stuff. Oh no! Triston Maher is in the wall. Triston Maher is in the wall. What has happened here to the Eclipse Photography Ford F-150, Andre?
We'll have to dial up a 3-wide TV replay. The left side of that car is pancaked. I got to think a concrete barrier was perhaps the culprit in that. Let's take a look exactly what happened. So he's about 3 car lengths back from Tesoro. He's going to come through this high-speed right-hander, the kink that's proven to be an issue for so many drivers tonight. And yeah, just getting into that concrete barrier. And I'm telling you, as far as iRacing is concerned, that is the worst barrier to hit. The Armco barriers in this game can sometimes be a little forgiving. The tire barriers are very forgiving. Safer barriers are forgiving. That concrete wall, it's not going to give for anything. So we'll go on board. And again, we talked about it, how it's a fine line. Just a few miles an hour too much, you might find yourself getting a little bit tight. And that is exactly what happened to Triston Maher. So just a incident-plagued night for the 17. Despite the speed he has had, the mistakes have just really piled up.
Yeah, we'll see how much speed is left in that number 17 truck, because he's going to have Scott Crump knocking on his door. You can see Scott Crump back there in the back of the picture. He's going to be like a shark in the water as he sees the truck in front of him that is now wounded and bleeding, as you see right there. Crump doing a great job closing in. This will be a battle for fourth here momentarily. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Philip Scott has put another second between himself and Julian Tesoro, now up to 5 seconds. So Philip Scott here kind of in the catbird seat. We mentioned that he did that overcut very expertly. Fantastic job to do so. Get the fresher tires. He's starting to use them to his advantage. As just looking at the lap count here, Andre, with 15 laps to go, you'd expect that the pit window will open up probably in about 2 to 3 laps from now. when we expect to see our leaders on pit road for what will be the final time here tonight at Road America.
Yeah, I think most of these guys can definitely make it on one more stop, and this battle right here between Crump and Triston Maher, I think that's going to be tightening up before we even get to this pit sequence. The number 8 is closing in ever so slightly, and I think the question for Maher is, how much value does he place on fixing that damage? How much time is he willing to give up in pit road to get that fixed? Because I definitely think it's affecting his pace, but with this being a relatively short race, is it affecting it enough that he should sit on pit road and wait for his team to get that sorted out? Because it's going to be a tough call for sure. Again, I know that truck is a little bit slower than it otherwise would be, but sometimes you sit on pit road so long that the added speed you get back isn't even worth it. So he's got some decisions to make come game time when he comes down pit road. And the number 8, like you said, a shark in the water, just trying to hunt down that 4th position, maintain his solid point standing for this season with a good top 5. And out front, Philip Scott, since we last looked at him, about another second. So we have our first taker down pit road, I think, though, looking at the timing and scoring. Unless the 92 had an issue.
Yeah, the number 92 did have an issue.
Oh.
Let's check out what happened here to Julian Tesoro, who was in second position. A mistake out of the number 92 back end, getting a little bit happy, carries a little bit too much speed, misses the apex, and goes off into the grass. We saw, I think, Triston Maher have a problem there. We saw Paul Bilson earlier in the show have a problem in turn number 3, and now Julian Tesoro joins that gang. You see, he got passed by Dominic Tesoro, but that has given Philip Scott an absolute huge lead up at the front of the field. Let's see if we can jump back live. There's the number 69, Dominic Tesoro, pacing around in second. But look at Philip Scott. He's just now coming out of the carousel. Let's see right here. Here comes Philip Scott through the kink. And now we have to wait for the next driver, Dominic Tesoro, to come into the kink. And there it goes. The number 69 finally making it through. Philip Scott here, Andre. Now, a 10-second lead up at the front of the field is, Triston Maher having another big wiggle where he had problems just a few laps ago. Almost bending it again as he's now got the number 8, Scott Crump, all over his back bumper. This now becomes the best battle for position on the racetrack, currently for 4th.
I'll tell you what, these trucks are very ill handling on old tires. That's the lesson that I'm gathering from watching these guys, because at the start of the runs, they're driving them hard. They're not really making that many mistakes. And then as these tires get a little bit older, they're just making mistakes left and right. And it's not just one driver. It seems to be everybody at one point or another has that truck step out or do something a little bit unpredictable. And those tires, I think, are the biggest culprit in that. I think Philip Scott, his strategy should be to take the overcut once again. He's got a 13-second lead, so I don't think he's got to worry about giving up too much time staying out on these older tires versus Tesoro, versus Maher. Speaking of Tesoro, the 69 comes down pit road. Dominic going to be the first taker for our final round of pit stops. But as I was saying, Philip Scott has nothing to lose taking the overcut once again. And I think this advantage of having fresh tires later in the run has proven to be absolutely paramount.
Yeah, that lead now growing from 10 seconds now almost to 14 seconds as Dominic Tesoro did finally come down pit road. Julian Tesoro stays out on the racetrack, but the number 17 here playing massive defense is Scott Crump. We're about 16 and a half seconds behind Philip Scott here in this battle. Meanwhile, back behind him, Bill Edwards has been able to put quite a few seconds now on Vincent Valvano, as it looks like Edwards about 9 seconds up the road from Vinny. He's been able to pull away. Dominic Tesoro back out on the racetrack. Adam Newton is kind of in his own zip code at the moment in the number 29. Does have the 69 Tesoro a little bit in front of him, but of course that's due to pit cycles. Adam Newton about half a minute or so up the road from Brandon King, who is about 17 seconds up the road from Steven Lashinsky. Is again Maher Andre, he is absolutely on the limit through that kink and caught the grass a little bit. That's allowed Scott Crump to have a look here into Canada corner. Here comes the number 8 Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Toyota Tundra, and he will move up into the 3rd position during this pit sequence. But Andre, I'm just looking at that lap count. 13 laps to go. I don't know if Dominic Tesoro proved to me that he can make it to the end of the race on just one more stop.
It's going to be close. That's for certain. He might have to do a little bit of saving. Again, this track has ample opportunity to save, but he's going to be giving up time doing so that he doesn't really have. He doesn't have time to be giving up. So we'll have to see how that plays out as the other Tesoro, Julian's going to come down pit road, and he should definitely be good. Anybody who comes down pit road from this point onward should be set. There's Scott Crump in the number 8. He's coming down pit road, and he's bringing the 17 in tow. So we'll be able to see exactly how long the 17 stays in his stall, how much damage he's going to get fixed up. Kind of a question I've had on my mind for a while, but the 17 does have the nice advantage of having that first pit stall, as he did get the pole, so doesn't have to worry about pulling out to the side to exit the pits, doesn't have to worry about the exit speed. He can just get right on it whenever he finally exits the stall. But the 99, again, staying out a little bit longer than most of the competition, and again, he can afford to do this. He had a 13-second lead prior to the beginning of this sequence, so even if he were to give up a second a lap on these older tires and he stayed out for 5 extra laps, they still wouldn't catch up to him. So definitely, I think the right call here for him. Hopefully we don't fire that 3-wide TV laser beam. It seems like everybody we've talked about has had issues tonight, but the 99 has just been, and okay, hold on. I'm going to knock on wood right there. The 99 has been really consistent tonight, Peter. I mean, we've not seen him make very many mistakes. We've not seen him get sideways through the corners. He has just been painfully consistent, and that is what it takes at road courses, right? You can be all out fast. You can have a really great car and really great corner speed, but if you're on edge and you're making mistakes, well, we've seen what happened to Dominic Tesoro. We saw what happened to the number 17 of Maher. We've seen what happened to, well, pretty much everybody has made a mistake tonight, except for that 99. And I think that's why he's out in the lead right now.
Yeah, and he is a really good driver at kind of staying within his bounds on road courses, especially when conditions get a little bit tough. He's going to stay out for another lap as well here. So at least for right now has a 41-second lead over Bill Edwards. Dominic Tesoro comes out currently in 3rd as he catches a little bit of grass right there. It is a big gap back to Vinny Valvano, who's yet to make his final pit stop. Then Julian Tesoro in the number 92 running in 5th for right now in front of Scott Crump, as I think Scott Crump was actually able to close in a little bit on Julian Tesoro, not 100% sure. Triston Maher in the number 17. Andre, you kind of were interested in how much time Maher would spend on pit road, and to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure that he got damaged fixed or whether he got a speeding penalty, because usually a speeding penalty is a 40-second stop and hold, and looking at his pit stop time, it was 54.9 seconds. Usually your pit stop's about 15 seconds, give or take. If he did get a speeding penalty, that would be about, 40 seconds added to 15, about 55 seconds, and that's exactly what his pit stop time was. So not sure what the case was for Maher. We saw, I think we rode on board with him earlier in his first green flag pit stop, and he was kind of pushing the boundaries of speeding. I just wonder if Triston Maher might have pushed it a little bit too much that time and got nabbed.
Yeah, he was definitely flirting with the pit road speed limit on the first stop, so it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. But from a visual standpoint, I mean, if you look at the driver's side of the 17, it definitely looks like they repaired some of, if not most of, the damage. It was very crumpled. The sponsor logos were pretty much illegible, and now, well, there's the left-hand side of the car. It's looking pretty good again, so he may have got a penalty and fixed some damage, or perhaps he just fixed the damage. I'm not certain, but regardless, the truck looks to be handling a little bit better than it was before, and it's in a bit better standing. Unfortunately for him, it is only 11 to go, so not a whole lot of time to make up for those mistakes that he made prior to this pit sequence. Following along now with the number 69 of Dominic Tesoro, he is 50 seconds behind our current race leader, who has not come down pit road. Philip Scott still holding out here. Now, I think Tesoro is going to cycle out close to our leader. You mentioned generally the in and out time is somewhere around, 55 seconds? So he's going to be close, if not ahead. But again, he's going to have older tires, whereas Philip Scott, taking this overcut, he's going to have fresh tires. And the number 5, he's just doing a little bit of yard work there, just cutting some grass.
Yeah, just mowing it right there as he's going to stay out for another lap, as is Philip Scott. Now, Brandon King in the number 55 machine just had a little bit of a moment. He had a little bit of pressure from the fresh tires of the number 17 of Maher. Maher caught him right there. Oh, Maher actually might have tagged him a little bit as he was slow there through the kink. And is that Vincent Valvano going to go on by? Brandon King, I believe, has not made his final pit stop of the night. That's why the number 17 was right there on him. But at least for right now, Brandon King is being scored in the 8th position, almost one lap down, not quite, but getting pretty close at this stage. But of course, our race leader is still to make his final pit stop. And speaking of our leader, Philip Scott, working his way through the carousel right now. We'll see, Andre, I just don't think he will go another lap, but he's proven me wrong before. We'll see whether or not Philip Scott in the World Ninja League Ford F-150 comes down onto pit road. Not a whole lot of Fords, only 3 in the field here tonight. Philip Scott being one of those. In fact, we'll bring that graphic up there at the top of your screen. So Philip Scott running a Ford, also Triston Maher and Vincent Valvano, the only other Fords in the field. Mostly Chevys, Andre. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Chevys in the field. And, of course, only 16 people. So you do the math. That leaves only 4 slots for Toyotas. And most of those are having a decent run here tonight. So here we go. Philip Scott on pit road. Final pit stop of the night. And I believe no one else has any pit stops left as well. So this will be presumably the final pit stop of the night. Unless Dominic Tesoro has to make one more pit stop. He might have to. He last pitted on lap number 22 in his machine. And, well, as I say that, I just realized Bill Edwards hasn't made his final stop. We'll see whether or not the number 5 comes down onto pit road this time. But, Andre, if you're Philip Scott, really you only have to do one thing, and that's don't speed on pit road and get into your pit box nice and neatly. There he is, pit crew going to work. And as long as you don't speed, you have a really good shot at getting the dub tonight.
Yeah, don't speed and be incredibly cautious on these cold tires. You do not want to spin out now. You don't want to make a mistake now. And for about a lap, those cold tires are going to feel like you're driving on ice. So just take it easy and, do what you need to do to keep that car underneath you. We'll see exactly what the gap is. So here comes Philip Scott into this right-hander. And let's see, when does Dominic Tesoro come through? Well, here he comes over the hill, down the hill, and there he goes. It's about 10 seconds, so Philip Scott really not sacrificing hardly any time with that overcut. Once again, managing to pull it off to perfection, and he's got, 6-lap fresher tires, Peter?
Yeah, I think it's only 4, but nonetheless, it's probably going to be feel like 6 laps. That's a significant amount here on a road course, especially when this road course is just over 4 miles in length. So you think about that, 4-lap fresher tires is 16-mile fresher tires. And of course, you're doing the math in your head. Wow, that's only 16 miles. That's not a whole lot. Of course, the tires on your car are good for, probably 30,000 to 50,000 miles. Well, these racing tires, they give up pretty quick. They have the goods for a lap or two, and after that, it's all they wrote in terms of the grip department. But for Philip Scott, he's down and away, and he will have all that grip all the way to the checkered flag, which will give him confidence that he can see this one out. But you don't want to get overzealous in these corners. They can bite you. But at this point, Andre, with a 9.7 second lead, he can just be a little bit more cautious if he wants to be.
Yeah, he can definitely take his time and just hit his marks. Doesn't really have to worry too much about pushing the car, especially because I think in just a handful of laps, the tire wear difference between Tesoro and Scott is going to be very, very noticeable. Currently riding on board with Scott Crump in the number 8. He's trying to run down Julian Tesoro in the number 92. These two are about 14 seconds back from our leader, and number 8 doing a really good job through the braking zone. See if he can get down to the curb through the apex. Again, does a good job. And, you know, as we were trying to say the first time we focused on him before we gave him the commentator's curse, very quiet night. You know, maybe not the fastest truck on track, but one of the more consistent trucks. And he's just kept himself in the catbird seat close enough that, hey, if something happens to the leaders, I'm going to be right here to pick up that position. And you know, you really can't complain about a top 5 at a road course, especially when he came into this race in a comfortable points position. And if he keeps it up, he's going to leave in that good points position. He's not sacrificing anything. And that's really all you can ask for at a track as chaotic and crazy as this.
We were riding on board with him, and I was a little bit concerned there on Andre, because that's exactly where we were last time he had a moment. Here is David Buell. Speaking of having a moment, right here, similar to what happened to the number 17 of Maher, just ran a little bit wide, made some contact with the right side of the number 52 Simbox machine. And then look at that. That's one of the drivers in the back of the screen, the number 13 machine of Josh Smith, who actually, I think they're past David Buell. Let's see if we could go on board with Josh Smith. I'm not sure if he maybe got distracted by the fact that he had a caution flag, or maybe he saw smoke, not sure, but he kind of pancaked it and, well, made a pass in the grass, Andre. So right now, it looks like Philip Scott up at the front of the field. 10 seconds exactly as we look at the live timing and scoring. Dominic Tesoro about 3 seconds up the road from Julian Tesoro. I think the big question that we have yet to answer tonight is, can Dominic Tesoro make it the rest of the way on fuel? And oh gosh, we did this again. Scott Crump in the number 8 machine, who had run down the number 92 of Julian Tesoro. We were just talking about him, guys, and then goes off into the grass and slam bam into the wall. I don't know, folks, in the chat. Is that one on me or is that one on Andre? I feel like that one's on Andre. He told me he had to step away for a brief moment. So I'm going to put that one on Andre while he's not here in the chat. But let's see what happened here to the number 29 machine of Adam Newton. We've seen a couple of people struggle at turn number 5, and looks like it has now bit the number 29 Budweiser machine, but luckily able to get things back rolling there pretty quickly. There's the number 92, Julian Tesoro. As looks like we got Mike Floppy Tellier in the chat. Mike, how's it going here tonight? Johnny Williams in the chat. Stay Tuned Sports saying, hey, bring up the figure 8 race. Well, hey, that was a great time. I know you probably messaged that about a half hour ago there. But Jimbo brings up a great point. We got a figure 8 race happening, I believe, in the month of May. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat there, Jimbo. But I believe it's in the month of May, kind of about 3/4 of the way through the month of May. The Total Nonstop Racing League and the National Sim Racing Association are going to pair together to do a charity race at the figure 8 race at Irwindale. They're going to be running the, I think, the Pro Light trucks, which are the off-road trucks that have a top speed of only about 110 miles an hour, but they have massive, huge, big suspension, and it is going to be a whale of a show. We're going to have it right here on 3Y TV, of course, for charity. Figure 8 race, going to be a great time. That Monday night in the month of May. Let's see if I can bring up the posting that was made earlier this week about it, just so I can get the date right. And I know you folks probably going to want to get it right. Yeah, May 26th at Irwindale, right here on 3Y TV. So make sure to jot down May 26th in your calendar, because figure 8 racing going to be a lot of fun. Philip Scott, though, having a lot of fun out there on the racetrack. 7 more laps to go. Still over 10 seconds between himself and Dominic Tesoro. Scott Crump has been able to right the ship, and he's now pointed in the right direction, and He's about now 12 or so seconds behind Julian Tesoro, who really can start to relax a little bit himself, unless he wants to try to run down his brother Dominic. But if Dominic's a little bit short on fuel, he might be able to use this time as well. He might lose a spot to his brother there, but if Dominic Tesoro is a lap or two short, 6 laps to go, he might be able to start saving some fuel now and still have a podium, even if he saves so much that he goes back to where Scott Crump is. But still plenty of laps left here at Road America. Bill Edwards has got himself into the top 5. He's been kind of knocking on the door of a top 5 all night long. There he is. Started this race in 6th, but with a little bit of the problems around him, he's been able to get up into the top 5. Triston Maher trying to run him down. Still about 12 seconds back. He's going to have to close in about 2 seconds per lap in the number 17 Eclipse Photography F-150. He's going to want to battle for a top 5. But Triston Maher probably going to look back at this race as one to forget after having some trouble there in the middle of the race. Meanwhile, Vincent Valvano has had a little bit of problems in the final corner. Let's see exactly what happened to Vinny Valvano here in this 3-wide TV replay. Comes out of the penultimate corner here into the right-handers. Jump on board with him. Just kind of missed the apex. Kind of had a lazy spin there late. Tries to get it pointed back in the right direction. Does a pretty good job of doing the 360 there, Vinny. But did lose kind of a good amount of time. And unfortunately, the number 64, who was up in the top 5 for a little bit of the race inside the opening 7 laps, has dropped back to 7th. But nonetheless, seeing a lot of pace out of Vinny. And of course, we've been broadcasting Vinny here on the channel now for probably a good 2.5 years or so, and I've been impressed with the fact that Vincent continues to improve week after week and starts to get more and more pace, and that's great for Vinny, as runs a little bit wide there, but just keeps it on the racetrack. But Andre, nonetheless, 5 laps to go, 13.3 seconds for Philip Scott up at the front of the field. And Andre, while you were away, we were saying all those good things about Scott Crump again. Well, unfortunately, he had a big issue with the wall, and he's now well behind Julian Tesoro. So at least for right now, it looks like our top 3 might be set, but let's keep our eyes on those Tesoro boys.
So what you're saying is we should stop talking about Scott Crump, because I don't think we've helped him at all tonight. We have caused him quite a bit of issues, I think, by giving him the commentator's curse. He's done everything in his power to have a nice, quiet night, and leave it to us to ruin that. But the number 52, just getting a little bit squirrely here into the grass, doing a little bit of lawn keeping, and I think he might have just had enough fun after that spin. Pulls it to pit road, and definitely seeing some frustrations boil over, as you tend to do with these road courses. Sometimes when the truck just isn't handling the way you want it to, and it's just getting away from you. It's not a very fun experience, to say the least. iRacing is very challenging on the road courses, and I don't know. I don't know what it takes to be fast at these road courses or how these guys do it, because my experience at these road courses is pretty much what the 52 just had happen. David Buell, where the truck just kind of steps out, and you're not really sure why. You feel like you did everything the exact same you did last lap, and the results were different. So iRacing, very challenging, and that is partially why we've seen so many mistakes tonight. But you mentioned keeping an eye on these Tesoro brothers, seeing if they close in on each other. They got 5 laps to sort out second and third, but that's really the closest battle amongst the top 5. Everybody else pretty separated. Behind Julian Tesoro, you've got something to the tune of 11 seconds to Scott Crump, and then Bill Edwards is way back there, 46 seconds back. And then Maher, after his penalty/damage, question mark, he is currently P6, about a minute back from our leader, which is a little under half a lap. So quite a bit of separation late into this race, which is kind of surprising, Peter, because really for the first half of this race, even beyond the first half, it was so condensed up front, and you don't normally see that. These guys did a good job keeping the race close. And now, finally, I think things are finally starting to be a little bit more typical of a road course as we go on board with one of our trucks. I believe this is this Newton?
Yeah, this is Adam Newton currently tracking down Vincent Valvano for the 7th position. Just about 2 seconds separate these two drivers as they work their way down the backstretch into the kink right here. You see Adam Newton, who's been doing his best, gets a little bit sideways right there, doing his best to track down the number 64 as the lap count continues to dwindle here. Just 4 laps to go for these two as they go across the stripe this time by, but you can tell Andre Newton's trying. He's doing everything he can to get to the back bumper of the 64. He sees that spot, and we mentioned it earlier, kind of like a shark with blood in the water. Well, that's where Adam Newton currently sits as he tries to pounce on the 64 here.
Yeah, every point matters throughout the course of the season, and Adam Newton knows that, and so does Vinny Valvano. So these guys are, I mean, it may not be for the lead, but they're going to race just like it was because, again, when you have a format like we have, every single point counts, and you want to make sure that you come to a road course and there's a lot of points that can change hands. You want to make sure you get as many of those points as you can. But the gap between the Tesoro brothers has not really changed. Philip Scott has pulled away by about another second over these guys, but still about 2 seconds between them. So not changing a whole lot, 2.2 seconds now, according to our graphic on the bottom right. So I don't know if they're going to get to each other over the last few laps, but here's the gap between Vinny Valvano and Adam Newton. A little bit closer, 1.8 seconds as Newton gets a pretty good line through that corner. That should close him up a little bit. Thought he might get a little bit loose with all that speed he carried, but he made it stick. Now into the uphill left-hander, again, right on the curb, right over that apex, doing what he needs to do. Valvano hitting his marks up the road as well, and that's a frustrating feeling, Peter, when you feel like you're doing everything right, you're hitting your apexes, you're hitting your marks, and the guy in front of you is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, this is my opportunity to gain some time, and you look at it, and dang it, I didn't gain any time that time, and then it just kind of repeats itself. I've been there before, or maybe you're closing, but you look up at the top left of the screen, you go, there's 3 laps to go, I'm just not catching enough. Although this back half of the racetrack has really favored Adam Newton as he's closed in to about 1.5 seconds. He's just got that lap count against him, but the closer he gets, the more pressure he's going to apply to the back of the number 64, trying to force Vincent Valvano into a little bit of a mistake, as again a little bit of wheel spin as he heads up through the S's, down to about 1.2 seconds here as he crests over that left-hander. Valvano got the power down soon, able to pull away just a little bit. Andre, I've been impressed. Adam Newton under the braking, really closing up, but now Valvano has a good launch up the hill to the start-finish line, almost a second, though, at the start-finish line, and now I think Newton's going to start to feel the draft just a little bit, which will help pull him ever closer to the back of the 64.
He gained about a tenth or two down that straightaway with the help of the draft. Now, he turned into that corner just a little bit early, but I think it actually worked out in his favor because it kept him out of dirty air, and Valvano actually got a little bit tight in front of him, so a bobble for a bobble, I guess you could say, as they work their way through the second right-hander, and both of these drivers getting a little bit sideways. Adam Newton continuing to close ever so slightly. They've got a lap truck ahead of them, I believe, not too far up the road, so that may come into play down the middle straightaway, as you have deemed it. And Valvano is going to take a very wide entry, very reminiscent of what we saw Triston Maher doing earlier in the race, whereas Adam Newton took a bit of a shallower entry, and it kind of equalized, and neither driver really gained or lost any time. Up the hill, out the left-hander, and through the right-hander. Again, a little bit of a braking zone coming up, and that is where Adam Newton has been so strong. See if he can close in here, and through the carousel, I think, is where Valvano might regain some of this ground that he has lost, as I believe that is the number 9 of Leshinsky right in front of these drivers, and might be putting them both in dirty air. Valvano goes high, Newton stays low. Newton is in striking distance now, Peter.
Yeah, underneath 0.4 of a second with Coming to 2 laps to go. You're not missing anything up at the front of the field. Dominic Tesoro still holding about a 2-second or so advantage over his brother. We're hearing big things, though, out of the number 17 of Triston Maher. Keep your eyes on Maher on the left-hand side of your screen. You see all that smoke. We're hearing that was the number 17. Looks like Lashinsky going to let these two as they battle for position on by. Looks like Maher has got back going. Let's quickly see if we can see what happened on the 3-wide TV. Well, you know what? Let's stay right here because the number 29 got a big run coming out of the final corner. He's going to go up the hill right here, looking to the right-hand side. This is a battle for position with 2 laps to go. Adam Newton trying to get 7th away from Vincent Valvano. It looks for right now like he's going to have the position as they go into turn number 1. The 64 fights back on the outside, but not able to do it. Let's see if Valvano can mount a charge into turn number 3 here. Doesn't look like it, as Adam Newton gonna try and leg it out as but he gets a big slide coming out of turn 3, but as did Valvano. And Andre Valvano not able to take that opportunity to its fullest, and in fact maybe even Valvano losing ground on Adam Newton as he also had wheel spin out of turn 3.
Yeah, I don't know what the psychology of it is, but I tell you, I see that a lot at road courses, and I've done it myself, where the guy in front of you makes a mistake, you see him do it, and then you do it. You're just like, I'm just following him. And I think that's exactly what happened. Both those drivers got big loose. But here's a replay as to what happened with the 17. Backside of the track has not been kind to Maher in the slightest. But he does a little bit of a 360, gets it going the right direction after throwing up the smoke screen. Didn't lose a whole lot of time that he hadn't already lost, so no harm, no foul there. Still in P6 and way up the road from Newton. Well, actually not too far up the road from Newton anymore. It's actually, looks like they might actually be engaged in a battle for position here momentarily on the white flag lap. Adam Newton looking to get one more position. Now the 17's got fried tires at this point. He has spun out numerous times, and it looks like Newton's going to take it, no questions asked. Valvano maybe following him through. So Newton up into P6, but as we speak, I believe, is Phillips, Phillips Scott, I don't know why I said Phillips Scott, Vinny Valvano got a little bit sideways there. In the meantime, the 99 still continuing to lead the way. Where is he at on the track on the white flag lap? He's working his way through the long right-hander and now headed towards the high-speed kink. So he's in the last half of the lap. 25-second lead. So those fresh tires have stretched that out from 12 seconds when he left the pits all the way up to 25 here on the final lap. So Phillips Scott had a solid qualifying effort, just barely got beat out for pole, and maybe not the fastest truck on the very beginning of the race, but as the race progressed, he just found his zen. He got a little bit quicker. He nailed the strategy, I think, better than anybody else, and the pieces just fell together. The puzzle was put in place, and Philip Scott was ready for it as he works his way through the final corner. And it's going to be a long drive to the checkered flag, but no pressure from behind. Doing a little bit of a celebratory wiggle up the hill to the flag stand. Philip Scott's going to be your winner here at Road America.
Yeah, one expert drive from the number 99. Meanwhile, the number 69 trying to hold off his brother. And how about that? The number 99, the 69, and the number 92. Quite a few nines on the podium here tonight as a big slide from Dominic Tesoro, but he's going to have enough to hold off. He's going to do a celebratory wiggle as he goes across the start-finish line. Julian going to come home in third. Now Scott Crump, I was about to say, I'm jinxing it by jumping over to Scott Crump, but no, he's able to hold on to it. Here comes Bill Edwards in fifth. Number 5 calling his own number here as he heads up the hill towards the start-finish line. Good job there. And how about the 6th place finisher, now Adam Newton? Well, he's not finished yet. Still a couple of corners to go. But
if he does finish in sixth, man, that was a great drive, grabbing those couple positions at the end of the race. Just did a good job conserving his tires. He minimized the mistakes, and I think that's been the it's been the goal for everybody tonight. If you can minimize those mistakes, you're going to have a good finish, and I think the 29 knew that. So Adam Newton now working his way through the final corner of the track, and now he is going to be home free all the way up the hill. Vinny Valvano not far behind. Vinny having a great top 10 night, very consistent, not too many mistakes out of that 64, and that's what you like to see. And it looks like behind these guys, Triston Maher looked like he had the truck to win the race, but unfortunately mistakes were stacked up over the night, and he's going to bring it home P8. King and Lashinsky already finished one lap down. There it is, 8th place for that number 17. Still a top 10, just not where he was hoping to finish, I'm sure. We do have a 3-wide TV replay, so something transpired on the final lap.
Yeah, and this is, you were just mentioning about Maher having issues that just kind of stacked up. Well, this was the icing on the cake, unfortunately, for the number 17 right there on the final lap. Just absolutely lost it in that corner. So definitely not the night that our winner last time out wanted. That's for sure. As Philip Scott, though, in the number 99 machine, he is still out there, going to come around to the front straight to do some burnouts for us and the fans. The World Ninja League machine putting on one beating of the field here tonight. 26.3 seconds at the checkered flag was the margin of victory as he works his way up the hill to do those burnouts. We're going to get, of course, a word with our top 3 finishers here tonight. The Tesoro brothers, as well as Philip Scott. Let him, though, celebrate the win. And Andre, you know, I have to say, there were definitely portions of that race, and I know you mentioned this, where the front 3 were so close together that having a margin of victory of 26 seconds at that point in the race seemed absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect a runaway winner after I saw how the beginning of the race went. But sometimes when you play the strategy right, it just kind of compounds and you gain time a little bit here, a little bit there. And then as long as you don't make any mistakes, by the time you get to the end of the race, you've got yourself a nice little advantage. That is exactly what Philip's got. He is, man, he must be trying to hide something from post-race tech, because he is beating the heck out of them walls with that 99. And that's going to be it for the celebration for Philip Scott. Can win the race, can't do burnouts.
Well, yeah, Philip Scott definitely not having the best of luck there on the front straight. But hey, let's see if we can dial up tonight's third-place finisher, driver of the number 92 machine, Julian Tesoro. Peter, 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Got a copy.
Well, it was a kind of a long night. It was a difficult night for sure, but some great battles in the middle portion of the race. Some different pit strategy coming into play with undercuts, overcuts, and the like. But a good, strong finish for you in the number 92. Talk us through it.
Yeah, that was it was really fun. I enjoyed it. It was nice having, you know, a nice battle with Tristan and Philip, and then Scott Crump was quick too. It was fun. It was a little stressful. I felt like the strategy could have definitely been better on you know, me and Dominic's end. Dominic kind of messed up in the beginning of the race and put him further back, and it, you know, changed our strategy up a little bit. You know, had to go on our own. But other than that, it was fun. I had a good time. Just really long.
Yeah, and of course, I know you have a road course racing background. So for you, these types of races, you know, probably not as long as some others, but definitely fun to see the battles here on these road course races. What makes these road course races so much different, and what can you tell people who don't like road course racing? You know, give them a little bit of a tip.
I mean, honestly, it's just I prefer it. Honestly, it's just more fun. There's more, you know, stuff to go with it. You know, pit strategy isn't. I mean, it is important, but it's, you know, it's not like super speedways where that's, you know, detrimental kind of thing. But it's just, you know, you got to take care of your tires, and I think it just really shows, you know, who's the better driver, you know, who could, you know, is consistent every lap.
Yeah, and consistency definitely on display here tonight at Road America. Next week, we go to Texas Motor Speedway for that 1.5 mile race. What are your thoughts about Texas?
It's a fun track. I prefer those 1.5 miles. You know, doing the ovals, I prefer those 1.5 miles. So we were fast last year. I'm sure we'll be pretty quick this year. Just got to get better on our pit strategies.
Without a doubt, going to be a fun one. Before we let you go, Julian, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
Yeah, shout out Ryan Dingler for the paint, Tesoro Raceworks, Tesoro Motorsports, shout out Dominic, Garage Welt for, you know, letting me use their logo on the truck. Shout out you guys up in the booth, man. Good, you know, good broadcast. Every time I always like to rewatch it.
Definitely a fun one here tonight. Julian, congratulations on finishing in third, and we'll see you again next week.
All right, brother. See you guys.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our third place finisher. Let's see now if we can go down to our second place finisher, where I believe Andre Bush is alongside Dominic Tesoro, the brother of Julian. Andre.
Dominic Tesoro, you get a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, Dominic, you and your brother definitely had some fast trucks out there, both finishing on the podium. Tonight's race was a little up and down for everybody. We saw consistency really become the most important thing, and really it came down to who could minimize the mistakes. And, well, you didn't make a whole lot of mistakes out there. It looked like the number 69 was handling pretty well. Tell me a little bit about your race.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a fun race, a long one, I'll say that. Very tiring, but no, it was a good race. I did make a massive mistake early on. After I had passed Triston, you know, I wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to dive bomb me in that deep corner. I think it's turn 4. So I had turned the brake bias all the way to the front, because you're doing, I don't know, 100, 170, 160 into a, you know, first, second gear corner. So I really needed all that front brake. But then I was so damn nervous with the guys battling behind me that I was going to get dive bombed that I didn't change it back for the next corner. So I definitely overshot it, and, you know, that was 6-7 seconds of games, you know, just trying to catch back up. That changed my whole race. I mean, I had to undercut everybody from that point. There was no overcutting. So yeah, it definitely changed the dynamic of the whole race, and not for the better. It was tough just trying to save fuel. I mean, that last 10 laps, I was like 60, maybe 50% throttle on most of the straightaways. So definitely a tough one.
Yeah, it was tough for a lot of drivers out there, and like you mentioned, a very long race here at this road course. And Road America is a demanding road course. It's definitely not one of the easier ones on the schedule. What part of the track would you say posed the biggest challenge? Was it that turn 4 where you kind of made that mistake, or was there somewhere else on the track that had you kind of scratching your head?
Honestly, it was the now forgive me, I don't remember the corner count, but I think the 4th to last corner. It's a right-hander. The sand trap is on either side. That is difficult, man. Very, very difficult. It tightens up on exit. Everybody hits the curb in the wrong way, so it throws all that sand on the track. So, you know, every lap you roll over the rumble strip there, it's like driving on water. I mean, it's insane. You know, and so that was definitely the most difficult corner. It was a fun one, you know, but definitely difficult. I'd say that and the corner I went off on were pretty hard compared to everything else.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough part of the track. I know exactly what you're talking about. And when that sand gets thrown on the track, it's not fun to try to navigate through there, because it sticks to the tires, and you got to make sure you're taking it easy for a few corners after that. But either way, it was a very solid podium performance for you. And I know next week we're going back to some more traditional oval racing. But how you feeling going forward with the momentum you've been carrying?
Yeah, pretty good. This should certainly put us at least P2 in points. I think Julian probably be right around 3rd, you know, maybe 4th. So it feels good. You know, my goal was to win it. Obviously, I think we definitely had the pace and had the whole, you know, pit strategy not had to change up on me due to the error I made. I think we may have been, you know, in contention, or better in contention, I guess. Philip was really quick, man. It would have been hard to hold him back. But as you can see with the battling that we did with Julian and Triston, we're pretty good at defending, so it would have been a fun one, but second place is all right.
Yeah, definitely good points day, but I obviously understand everybody wants to go out there and win, so a little bit frustrating there. But luckily for you, plenty of road courses on the schedule this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you and your brother can do, especially with those matching paint schemes. I loved seeing those trucks out there tonight. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
But,
cool, man. I appreciate it.
We will hopefully catch you next week. But before we let you off the hook completely, is there any shout-outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, you guys in the booth for taking the time to broadcast it. Justin White, NSRA, Tesoro Raceworks, just everybody who kind of puts this thing together.
Alrighty. Well, again, congratulations on P2, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
That was Dominic Tesoro out of the booth, and now Peter is he's made a brisk jog down to Victory Lane, I believe. Hopefully he isn't too worn out from that run, but I think he's caught up with Philip Scott.
Yeah, I have caught up with Philip Scott right here, kind of with a little bit of a hot mic, but nonetheless, Philip, a fantastic race for you and that number 99 machine. It was a absolute battle all the way to about the halfway mark when really I think that kind of endurance race mentality started to set in. A couple of drivers started to make a couple of mistakes here and there, but you were steadfast, hitting your marks lap after lap, stellar pit stops, the overcut, which puts you in prime position to win here tonight. Kind of walk us through the race.
Yeah, Peter, it was. I'm always the most nervous for the road courses because I know I usually have a good shot of winning them, and that just makes it harder on me. And so I was a little concerned when Triston's super fast, obviously. I wasn't surprised that he nabbed me for pole, but it was just like, oh man, this is definitely going to be a tough one. And so I just was like, this is 35 laps. Road America's 4 miles long. It's a super long track. And so I was just like, I just need to keep hitting my marks. And I think in stock cars and these trucks, it's so hard to not push. And that's what you got to do in these road. You got to let the race come to you, let the car come to you. So I just bided my time, and all of a sudden I realized I was still hanging with them before the first pit stop, and I realized I had 2 laps left on my tire or on my fuel when Julian pit and then Triston pit. Then I realized I could definitely overcut. So I realized when I was by myself, I'm like, wait, I'm still doing 218s. I was kind of surprised. I guess all that saving from the first stint helped, and so I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna keep pushing. Hit all my marks, and then get a good pit stop. And I was expecting to come out 3rd or 4th. I wasn't quite sure where everyone was. I knew that Julian, I think, was the one that was in the lead at that point. And I come out of the pits and I see 3 guys 3 wide behind me, and I'm just like, oh. And I was shocked I got the overcut, and I almost overshot it into turn 2, and thankfully I didn't. And then thankfully I had enough traction on the newer tires to start to inch my way past. And then a few laps into the run, I was just kind of just saving my stuff, and then I noticed that then their tires started to drop off once Julian got to about 2.5 seconds back, because he was kind of at a second. Then 2.5 seconds back or so, I just went for it and just pushed, and all of a sudden, just the combination of me pushing plus their tires falling off just made the gap just go crazy, and I just had another stop, and then I just kind of pulled away. I was kind of surprised I was gapping him by 2 seconds each lap. Yeah, I really love road racing, and I'm glad that Justin put this track on the schedule.
Well, it was a really good win for you, as I said, and I think everyone at home watching and listening, kind of everything that you went through kind of play-by-play, everything that's in your head, you spelled out. There's a lot in drivers' heads here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, analyzing and figuring out as the race goes on. They're always keeping mindful of their competition. But Philip, a great race here tonight. But we go from here to a mile and a half, Texas Motor Speedway next week. This is kind of a turnaround point of your season. The first 3 events have not been kind to you. Do you think you can keep this momentum going next week at Texas?
Yeah, for sure. I know I had a little bit of an unfortunate start of the season. I kind of just chilled and survived to 7th at Daytona. Then I had a wreck on pit road, which was unfortunate at Vegas. And then last week was actually not that bad. I just lost the front pack, and so I just had to. I was happy to help Triston to the win last week. Still got 7th there, and today it's a long season just like last year, and I'm definitely obviously the championship's the goal, but this was really an awesome race, and I did okay at Texas last year. I think it came down to me and Gracias, and I remember the track being really loose. We'll see. Obviously, it's been like many months since then, so we'll see how the track drives with updates or whatever and track conditions. But I'm usually pretty good at Texas. I want to start winning more on ovals though. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, Philip, a good race for you here tonight, and looking forward to what Texas has in store next week. Before we let you go, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
Yeah, for sure. Shout-outs to you guys, and of course at 3Wide TV and NSRA. Justin does a really great job keeping this league afloat. Definitely runs a tight ship. We got lots of great racers here. And then, of course, as you know, World Ninja League. Check out worldninjaleague.org. We gearing up for the big championships in June. So if you're in North Carolina in June, check us out.
All right. Well, Philip, congratulations on the win, and we'll see you again next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, folks, that's going to do it with tonight's race winner, driver of the number 99 machine of Philip Scott. And I think all that we have left to do, Andre, is to go through tonight's final race results. So why don't you take it away?
All right, so if you want to know where your favorite driver finished to the fans at home, it was Philip Scott taking home the win with his masterful strategy, taking the overcut, making it work, and ultimately walking away with the trophy and a few points in his pocket. Dominic Tesoro is going to finish right ahead of his brother, 2 and 3 for the Tesoro brothers. Scott Crump bringing it home in 4th. We tried our best to give him the commentator's curse. We tried to get him outside of the top 10, but you know what? The guy's got tenacity. He was able to bob and weave around that 3Wide TV laser beam and brought it home inside the top 5. So good job, Scott, trying to get around our curse there. Bill Edwards going to bring it home P5 in the number 5. And outside of the top 5, we got Adam Newton. He made a few late race passes to grab a few extra points. Great performance by that number 29. And Vinny Valvano, Peter mentioned, seems like he just improves week in and week out, little by little. And that's what I think racing and sim racing especially is all about, just practicing, getting a little bit better. And, well, Vinny's been creeping up that scoreboard all year long. Inside the top 10 this week in that 64. Triston Maher, a lot of incidents. The concrete barrier definitely not getting a Christmas card, I don't think, from the 17 team this year. And he is going to bring it home in P8 after leading a few laps early on. Brandon King is going to bring it home inside the top 10. He did not qualify. He started towards the back, but got towards the top half of the field in that 55. Steven Lashinsky in the number 9 is going to round out our top 10. And then just to quickly go through the rest of the drivers that were DNF'd, we got Josh Smith, David Buell, Fred Lester, Jeff Price, Paul Bilson, and Matt Cherry, who did not start the event. And that's going to do it for our post-race results.
Yeah, another great race here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, and another winner. I don't think we've had a repeat winner in the opening 4 races so far this year, so that just adds to the fun that we expect to see next week as well at Texas Motor Speedway. Might we see our first repeat winner? I'm not 100% sure myself. But, folks, Nope, that's the wrong logo. Told you I'm doing all this stuff manually here tonight. Hey, there we go. That's the right logo. We brought back a logo from over a year ago. Maybe not over a year ago, but sometime last season. Folks, it's been a lot of fun here tonight. Make sure you join us at 9 o'clock Eastern next week for more Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series action. Make sure to check out Stay Tuned Sports and their podcast. Of course, it is March Madness going on here tonight. And for only the second time ever, the number 16 seed in the March Madness tournament has upset the number 1 seed. Congratulations to Fairleigh Dickinson for winning tonight against Purdue. But I'm sure you'll hear all about that and more in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast this week with Jimbo and the gang. But for myself, Peter Short, and everyone else here in the 3 Wide TV gang, have a good night, and we shall see ya!